So I'm Melissa Carlson, and first of all, I just wanted to tell you all thank you very much for praying for my dad. He had his aortic heart valve replaced on Friday morning, and it went really well. He's going to be in Edward Hospital this week. So thank you so much for all of your prayers. So I'm going to share a little story / challenge for you, and I think it's just it's going to blow your mind how well it fits in with everything, because I didn't know, any of the songs that are going to be played, any of that before I felt that God wanted me to share this. So here goes. A couple of weeks ago, I was putting off going to bed and saw an old and tattered little black leather book sitting on my bookshelf. I recognized it easily, knowing that it was a devotional book that used to belong to my grandpa. Wait a minute, I asked myself. That little book means a lot more to you than that, right? I realized that I had let the miracle that happened through that book slip from my consciousness. How can you look at that book, remember that night and how perfectly God provided for you, and not be totally convinced of God and who He is? I guess I have some explaining to do. You see, several years ago, I had realized the existence of evil and became very afraid of evil and Satan. I doubted God's power over evil and doubted that I was a child of God. Night was a time of torture for me, when all of my fears multiplied as I sat in solitude. I was embarrassed by my fears, so I was afraid to tell my parents of my troubles. One night the torture was too much. My dad had stopped in my room, and I hesitantly told him my fears and broke down crying. We talked about it and prayed, and he assured me that I was a child of God. Then he said that he thought he had something for me and went and got it. It was a little devotional book called Morning and Evening by Charles H. Spurgeon that he had found in a box of my grandma's things in the basement. My dad thought he should give it to me because he felt that having a morning and evening devotional would help me. We opened it up to the evening devotional for that day, October 2nd, and this is what it said. Child of God. Do you hesitate to appropriate this title? Ah, has your unbelief made you forget that you are greatly beloved too? You lived in sin and rioted in it. Must you not have been greatly beloved for God to have borne so patiently with you? Since that time, whether your path has been rough with troubles or smooth with mercies, it has been full of proofs that you are a man greatly beloved. Do not let us approach our Lord as though we were strangers or as though He were unwilling to hear us. Come boldly, O believer, for despite the whisperings of Satan and the doubtings of thine own heart, thou art greatly beloved. Meditate on the exceeding greatness and faithfulness of divine love this evening, and so go to thy bed in peace. And let me tell you, every word on that page applied directly to my life and the condition of my heart in that moment. And to add to that, my dad showed me an inscription at the beginning of the book. It read, "To my pal and co-laborer, Chuck White, whose faithfulness to the cause of Youth for Christ and our Lord has been a blessing and inspiration to us all." And it was signed, Billy Graham, June 12th, 1947. The book had been given to my grandpa by Billy Graham when they were working together in an organization to bring youth to Christ. I'd never met my grandpa because he had died in a car accident when my mom was only 2. Yet still, God worked through him and Billy Graham and my dad to meet my needs in that imperfect moment. How can I look at that book, read that passage, realize the amazing story of it getting to my hands, and say that it was all an awesome coincidence? Well, here's my confession. Even though I've had crazy, dramatic experiences like this where there's no other explanation but that God is God, I often pretend that God's existence is still uncertain, so I can focus on my own agenda and not feel compelled to give it up for His. It's not that I stop believing. I just don't let myself be convinced beyond the shadow of a doubt that the God of the Old and New Testament is indeed the true God, and that everything written in the Bible is the truth. Think back to your own past. Time and time again in the Old Testament, God tells his people to take action to be sure that they don't forget the lessons they learned from him or the amazing miracles he accomplished for them. Have you forgotten? Have you pushed those experiences into the back of your mind so you can let yourself get away with not living your life totally for God? Representing the youth of this church, I want you to know that we want revival to come. And it's going to start by confessing what is holding you back from being completely sold out for God.